Welcome back to the channel, and today we have a brand new release from Sencut Knives. This is the Omniform. It's a pretty nice sized knife coming in at 8.55 inches long with a 3.65 inch drop point blade. Has some nice effective grippy jimping up top right here. A very, very thin precision tip there. Excellent for doing controlled tip work, piercing tasks. You do have a sharpening tool, however, you're only going to get about 1 or 2 sharpenings before it starts to flare right here. You can see that plunge comes down where my fingernail is. So not the biggest deal, especially at this price point. And I could easily extend that myself if I want to, because that stop pin is sitting right here in front of that flipper tab. It has a nice even satin finish on it. And they give us a nice full flat grind that comes down to around 15, 16 thousandths behind the edge. So this thing should be a performance beast. Let's find out. Like just about every Sencut knife, this one came with a wicked sharp edge, and got a nice long blade here. Excellent low tip, so it's easy to do these type of cuts. You can do nice long cuts, and that full flat grind, man, is really slicing well. Now we're gonna test the ergos, starting out with some light pressure, able to make fine curls rather easily, but I'm kind of wanting to see if there's any hot spots, so I'm picking the pressure up rather quickly. And nothing I noticed offhand, you know, it was comfortable. The clip was staying out of the way of my palm. I was able to get a good bit of force into the wood. Now, whenever I started really bearing down, it causing me to grip the knife a little bit tighter. I could feel the scales flexing a little bit because of that micarta. Nothing terrible. Didn't feel like it was going to unlock the knife or anything, but the middle of the scales were kind of pinching in. But if you were worried about that, you could always go with the G10, and it should be a-okay in that department. Thin micarta is just usually pretty flexible. It's not the most rigid material. And it's very easy to get that low tip down into those drag cuts. It's like a little scalpel up there in the front. That edge is nice and crisp. It's got some good bite to it. It made short work of pretty much everything I threw in front of it. You can see I'm using that pointer finger grip for a lot of this. I got a big old blister, and it's still easy to do this type of cutting. The knife is not sharp. Doing that pointer finger grip, at least for me, is almost impossible. But I kept doing it that way the entire time. It's got a lot of bite left in this, going into this 10-ounce Diddum, blasting through it like it's not even there. And so far, this one's been a pleasure to test. Now we're going to test it with the 1/2-inch sisal rope, and it still has bite to it. Now, I'm sure after my first sharpening, I can make it have more bite to it, but I'm definitely not going to complain because it's slicing well. It's thin up there by that tip, and it was comfortable in the pinch grip. I wasn't sliding much because it was my micarta scales gripping those gloves nice and tight. And I think we get through like 70 cuts before I run out of this piece I cut for this test. And definitely still felt good. The 9CR I think I might have been saying civivi, that Sencut does is usually pretty good stuff, especially for what you're paying here. And overall, I've been having a lot of fun with this knife. Man, I just wish it had a blade hole. But yeah, as far as performance goes, it performed outstanding. Sorry, I dropped a piece of rope on the floor because this is the end piece, and it's curled, as you can see. So definitely happy with the performance, and I could easily strap it back to hair shaving sharp, no problem. Now let's check out that sharpness after all that cutting. It still feels good. Yeah, see, at that price point, I mean, what else can you ask for? I mean, it's definitely not perfect. You can hear a few rough spots, but I mean, I'm definitely good with that. I could definitely strap it back to nice and screaming sharp. What y'all think about that? Now let's take a look at the deployment and the action of this knife. It's a flipper only deployer, and you do have some jimping there. The flipper is orientated above that pivot, so you're going to go out almost at a 90-degree angle before the blade has to take over, and the detent is dialed in perfectly, and it's a drop shut knife. Very, very smooth action, riding on ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. I do wish it had a thumb stud, but I don't really need it. I can still grip that knife and roll it open myself. I can reverse flick it, but it's not as easy, being that I don't have any kind of ledge or flat to get my finger on. I just got to make sure to put the right amount of tension on that blade, but it can be done. It's not really my preferred means of deployment. Definitely would have enjoyed a nice blade hole right here. Now let's take a look at the handle area. My particular one has the black canvas micarta. Nice and grippy, nice and soft texture. Flat scaled knife with a nice chamfer going all the way around. They do a great job. No sharp spots where you don't want them to be. Your stainless steel liners do sit a little proud of the scales. They're shadow boxed. However, they are nice and rounded, so I never feel that at all whenever I'm doing all the testing, so it's not an issue at all to me. We have T8 hardware throughout, except for the pocket clip, which is T6, and they did not countersink that clip into the frame, but they did do the screws. It is a deep carry, as you can see. All you'll have is this little portion right here sticking out. Goes in and out of the pocket nicely because it has a nice larger ramp that I do not feel at all during use. And the pocket clip is also reversible for the lefties out there. You do have a flow-through construction, 2 hourglass standoffs in the back right here, hidden lanyard posts in the back also. There is tons of internal milling, as you can see on the lock side. You got a bunch, and then a ton on the show side to bring down that weight as much as they possibly can. Bringing the weight to 4.16 ounces, and I'm kind of surprised by that because it feels lighter in hand. The balance point, let's find that. I must be right where it needs to be. Yeah, balance point is right there. It's very agile in the hand. Really hard to show the lockup because there's a cutout right there, so it goes further back. It's a little dark in there, but it's about, I'd say, 40, maybe even 50%. Access to the lock bar is good. This comes down a little bit lower than the lock side. You have a little bit of texture there. It's easy for me to get my thumb in there, no problem. Nice solid engagement as well. The lockup on my knife, solid. No play up or down, left or right. I did not expect any. Now for some quick size comparisons, we have the Sencut Glide Strike and the Sencut Fantera. It's just a little bit shorter than both of these. And it's about identical in length to the Civivi aluminum Praxis, and it's a little bit larger than the Sencut Serene. Last, it's about identical in overall length to the Ontario Rat 1 and dwarfs the Rat 2. Now, for my nitpicks and complaints, I'm not a huge flipper-only fan. I would have loved the blade hole or even thumb studs. That would have elevated even more. I don't mind if it has both. I just not a huge flipper-only fan. My hands are just already beat up, and it's just not the most comfortable thing for me to use. Also, the only other thing I really noticed is with the micarta, and I've noticed this on a lot of budget knives with micarta, thin micarta scales like this. You can flex this. It's not terrible or anything. And if that bothers you, just buy one of the G10 variations and you won't have to worry about that at all. And if flipper only knives aren't your thing, you could go for the Sencut MEMS. You have about the same belly, low-tipped drop point on this one, and it's not quite as big. It's, close. You got a little bit more cutting edge on the Omniform, but this one is a nice option. It's got the flipper and the blade hole. I love that blade hole, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I think it's because of this longer handle. You got to stand off way back here, and then you don't have another solid point to that stop pin. So you have all this open spot right here, and on the MEMS, it's not that long. So with the MEMS, I can't flex it as much as I can flex this one. But like I said, it's not really that big of a deal. And then like I said, if you like the flipper and you're worried about that, just get the G10, no big deal. But both of these excellent options, and if this one isn't your thing with a flipper tab and you like the MEMS, I will have both of these linked down below. But overall, my final thoughts, if you like flipper only knives and you want a good performer, a nice full size knife, then this is an outstanding option. I have really been enjoying the last few releases from Sencut. I think they only had one lately that I wasn't really that much in love with. But even though this is flipper only, I still love it. I've been carrying it quite often. And right after this video, I'm going to sharpen it up, lay that angle back a little bit, and make it a slicing machine. All right, guys and girls, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Hey!